Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted as always to be joined by my good friend now, Mr. Dan Rafael. How are you finding fight week, Dan?
Andrew, it's a good fight week. I'm happy. I'm thrilled to be here. It's a good fight. I was very fortunate to be present and cover the first fight and the second fight. Can't miss the trilogy, right? So here we are for number 3. Now, it's not the normal trilogy because usually it would be 1-1. In this case, it's officially 1-0-1. And Fury, was forced into this third fight because of the contractual rematch clause that Wilder had to take him to an arbitration over to force the fight. But here we are, and I'm looking forward to another good heavyweight championship fight.
20 months in the making, let's say. I mean, February 2020 was the last time these two have fought. The last time we've had a big fight like this in Las Vegas. We had Pacquiao, we had all this stuff, but the UK media here, it seems like a bit more of a buzz since during the pandemic, doesn't it?
For me anyway, I was here for Pacquiao and Usyk, which was my first fight in the pandemic coming back to Las Vegas. I'd also covered one other fight before that in Texas with Canelo against Billy Joe Saunders. But I feel like the atmosphere, at least so in front of first few days between Fury Wilder 3 and also for Pacquiao Usyk, it's about the same because the fans are not out in force. There's no international travelers. So in the case of this fight, it's unfortunate that most of the Brits have not been able to make their way over here. Less media from Britain than there may have been had it been open for everybody. The Pacquiao fight, there was seemingly a little less press and all that also. They had a good crowd in the arena. I suspect we'll have a good crowd in the arena for this fight on Saturday. One of the disappointing parts, which is always a fun part of fight week, is they'll do the weigh-in, but for reasons I don't quite get, but you can have a full arena, 10, 15, whatever thousands in the arena on the night of the fight, but they close the Grand Garden Arena for the weigh-in, and it's only open to the folks who were involved working the show, the press. So that's disappointing. So you don't have that energy, that excitement that the weigh-ins bring for these big fights. But somebody asked me is boxing back? In post-pandemic, and I say yes, we're getting some big fights. Certainly, there are some events that you feel like it's all the way back, like a Joshua Usyk with 65,000, or like I mentioned, I was at Canelo Plant, 73,000 plus, set the American attendance indoor record for a boxing event in that fight back in May. But then there's events like this in the Pacquiao fight where you don't have the international travelers and you have a little less press because of the travel situation. So I say we're not all the way back. We're sort of like playing hurt. You know what I mean? We're almost there, but we're not quite all the way there. But it's better than not having any fights at all, is the way I look at it.
Definitely. It just goes to show us that the fans do make the game, the sport of boxing, don't they? But without the fans, it's not really. It's fun, but it's not quite as fun because the fans do bring it, don't they?
You just you miss that energy. They're there to cheer their guy on or see a good fight, and makes things exciting. It's the same. It's not even just boxing. I mean, it would be the same as if I was watching a basketball game when they did the NBA in the bubble and there was no fans present, or if you're watching watching the baseball playoffs last year were very limited number of fans. It's not the same as if you're watching a filled arena with 20,000 going crazy at an important moment in a basketball game, or the tension-filled points of a baseball game, and when everything is on the line. And same in boxing. You need the sports emotion and those people there to bring everything out and to make it exciting. And like you said, it's still fun, it's still good to watch, and it's still entertaining, and it's still important within the context of the sport. But it misses something, and it doesn't translate the best on television if there's no fans there. So, over the last year and a half, I've watched a lot of boxing matches that took place in a bubble. And you see like a great knockout or a great round or an exciting fight, and you just wonder how much more of an impression it would make on you emotionally if you had these crowds of fans going crazy when some big moment happened.
Definitely, I totally agree with you there, Dan. Now let's talk about the fight itself. You were lucky enough to be at number 1. I was lucky enough to be at number 2. You were lucky enough to be at number 2 as well. Number 3, Wilder seems a different fighter to me mentally. I don't know how, in fighter, don't mean how he's going to approach the fight, but mentally he seems different. He seems more relaxed. He says silence is golden. We're used to Wilder screaming, "Bomb Squad!" I don't think I've heard it once this week.
I've heard it once this whole promotion.
Have you? But I've not heard it.
I was on a conference call like a week or so ago. He did the one bomb squad. I think you're right. I think Deontay is, he first of all, he knows how significant and important this is to his career, whether he wants to say so or not. You can't really afford to lose a second fight in a row to this guy, Tyson Fury. And, he has spent his entire career being a boisterous guy, being a fun-loving kind of guy, being accessible to the fans, being accessible to the press. And I think for this fight, he's like, I'm doing this one for myself. So no disrespect to you fans, no disrespect to you media guys, no disrespect to anybody. I got to do this the way I got to do this. And that means just, keeping the lip zip for the most part. I mean, if you remember, it's not like it's just new for this fight week. Going back before the fight was postponed from July because of Fury's COVID that forced it to fight here in October, when they did the original press conference to announce the third fight when it was originally going to be in July. Remember, he gave like a very brief statement when they opened up the news conference, and then he didn't speak the entire rest of the time. He let Malik Scott, his new head trainer, do the talking. He did a few interviews, but not like he normally would have done. But as a press guy that, you like to talk to these guys and hear their thoughts, you can still write without talking to them. You can write about the things I'm talking to you about. Like, you can understand, or you can talk to other people on his team, whether it's his trainer or his manager or others around him. If that's the way Deontay Wilder needs to act because it puts him in the best position to win the fight, I can't blame him. I mean, I don't love it, but what are you going to do?
Exactly, what are you going to do? But you mentioned Malik Scott there. Now, sometimes Wilder being 35, he's 40 fights into 40 plus fights in his professional career. He's gone about that relatively the same way, that 1-2 bang knockout, 1-2 bang knockout, the odd left hook in there somewhere. But that seemed to be his style. Can Malik Scott, with the time they've had, can he change him into being this more of a boxer? Because I see that's the sort of vibe I'm getting. I'm getting more of a approach to the fight that he's got to be box Fury rather than just take him out. Can you see Malik Scott doing that to Deontay and making him learn new tricks?
I don't think that's accurate. Maybe you are. I don't agree with that. I don't think Malik is trying to make him a boxer. I think everybody knows, including Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder is a puncher from birth to death. He lives and dies on the right hand, and that's always the way it's going to be. But you can do other things to help set that right hand up.
Add to it, yeah.
Malik is trying, as he's talked about at the press conference, he made the point, believe him or not, I'm not trying to teach Deontay Wilder anything new. Frankly, at age 35, with 40-plus fights and an amateur background that he has with an Olympic medal, etc., you're not teaching him some kind of grand new thing. I mean, he's a finished product, essentially. But that doesn't mean you can't sharpen and shine what's there. So what Malik spoke about was the things that he has seen him do in the gym. Remember, Malik is maybe the head trainer for the first time going into this fight, but he's been part of Deontay Wilder's camp for several years, as an assistant, and they've been friends for years. So he's saying to Deontay and to the public and to the media, we're working on this, and we're drilling things I know he already has, and we're going to try to implement that a little bit more. But they're never going to make that the focal point of his attack. He's a right-handed puncher. But it's nothing wrong with being a right-handed puncher and knowing you have a decent jab and helping you use a little bit more to set that right hand up. So I think that's really what Malik is trying to do, is get Deontay Wilder to use the tools that he believes he already has, that he has seen, go to school on those constantly, repeat, over and over again for like the last 20 months. That's plenty of time to do some kind of new wrinkle in your game, and hope that when it comes time for the actual fight, that they'll be part of his muscle memory, and when he's going to try to land a right hand, that he remembers to try to set it up, whether it's shoot a body shot or, be a little stiffer with a jab, or maybe take a side step, whatever. Point is, they're not changing him. He is who he is, but you can still improve on what he's got.
Definitely. As well, Tyson alluded on that as well, that you can go to university and learn a degree in 2 years. So I think Tyson's probably expecting something different from Wilder. I think that's what I was trying to say. Are you expecting something different rather than that 1-2 bang knockout? As you've seen, I'm sure you've seen the Instagram clips and him ducking, slipping and bobbing and weaving with the pads on Malik. Do you think you're going to see something different from Wilder? Because Mike Tyson says everyone's got a game plan to get punched in the face. So it's one of them ones, isn't it? Do you think you're going to see something different from Wilder?
I think he will try to be a little bit different. I mean, I don't think it's going to be radical, but I don't think it needs to be radical. It just needs to be a little bit. Even just a little bit. First of all, going to be definitely better than the way he performed in the second fight. And, but I don't think you, me, Tyson Fury, anybody except Deontay's immediate group knows exactly what their plan is. And I think the same thing goes for Fury. Now, he told us leading into the second fight he was going to go out there and try to blast him out. We all thought he was crazy because when he fought the first fight, which many people thought that he won, that he did a good job boxing. He just got the draw, but he still was very effective with what he did. But he sure enough followed through, and he did exactly try to do that, try to go out guns blazing and get the guy, and that's exactly what he did. Now, being asked about that going into the third fight, he said once again he's going to do the same thing that he did in the second fight. And now it's up to us, do we believe him or not? I mean, he told us after the second fight, going into the second fight, and we were proven that he did exactly what he told us. When you and I know, you hear fighters, they never want to give away their game plan. Deontay Wilder gave it away. Like, that was crazy. I mean, Tyson Fury gave the game plan away. So I don't know what to believe, but Tyson Fury is... Look, these guys are both experienced guys at the hop level. They're not seeing stuff they've never seen before. Fury's been around 13 years. Deontay's been boxing, professionally since the Olympic Games when he got the bronze in 08. They know each other because they've boxed now 2 fights, 19 rounds. I don't think there's going to be a lot of trickery. I mean, it's whoever's got their game on that night. I mean, it's not that complicated.
I want to go to the press conference, and Dan, I mean, again, Wilder's quiet up until the part when they had the final say, when Kate gave them the final words. Now, I think Fury needs to bounce off somebody to get his emotions and his character going and stuff like that. And I think he got that, because I seen Wilder when Fury was going at it. Wilder was starting to get a little bit itchy, and I was like, yes, now Wilder's going to go for it, and he did. But he's still going on about these cheat allegations and things along them lines. Do you believe him? I mean, he seems to be 100% certain that Tyson Fury did cheat. I mean, there was a long list of different things: Mark Breland and the water and the referee and the gloves. But Dan, for you as a journalist, you've been in the sport 20 years, like we've just spoke off camera about. But do you believe Wilder?
No.
That's simple.
I mean, look, I've covered enough fights where I've heard fighters make excuses. When Vladimir Klitschko got knocked out by Lehman Brewster in their first fight for the vacant WBO heavyweight title at Mandalay, a fight I was at in like 2004, whatever it was. He said that his cut guy, the guy in his corner, put too much grease on him and it clogged up his pores and he ran out of gas. Antonio Tarver, when he got manhandled and beaten down and lost virtually every round and got dropped by Bernard Hopkins, that somebody had messed around with his water. So, I mean, these are not new excuses that I've heard. And it doesn't make Tarver or Klitschko bad guys. It doesn't make Deontay Wilder a bad guy. But for some professional athletes, in boxing particularly, if you have never lost before, and now you not only lose, but you get your rear end kicked all over the ring for 7 rounds and stopped and dropped twice, you have to come up with some kind of alibi, some kind of rationalization, some kind of reason, and that's where the excuses come in. So no, I do not think that Tyson Fury cheated. There's too many people that would have to be involved in that kind of conspiracy to make it happen. And by the way, anytime there's a conspiracy, there has to be some motivation. So when Deontay talks about Mark Breland spiked my water, I don't believe that, number one. I know Mark for a long, long time. He's a good human being. Wouldn't do that. Had too much love for Deontay Wilder, genuinely. For any of the fighter, whatever. What would be the motivation? What's the motivation? You always have to have a motive, right? And it's like Tyson Fury said at the news conference. It'd be one thing if Wilder had one excuse. Blame Mark Breland, said he spiked the water. Blame the costume. Blame the gloves. Blame this. Blame that. But he only had one. Maybe you could find it to be believable. Maybe Deontay had reasons to think it was legit. But when you come up with a laundry list of like 5, 6, 7 things, it makes it a little bit hard to swallow. And, he manipulated the gloves and then he had egg weights in the gloves. Well, which is it? Did he have both? I mean, Kenny Bayless, who was one of the greatest referees in boxing history, in my opinion, was somehow unfair to Deontay Wilder at his expense and was somehow on Tyson Fury's side. I've watched Kenny Bayless referee hundreds of fights in my career. I know Kenny Bayless, not like we're friends, but I mean I know him a little bit. Kenny Bayless is just is a true professional, a quality guy, and a legit Hall of Fame level referee. He's not bending over backwards to make the fight unfair for Tyson Fury at the expense of Deontay Wilder. That is absolute nonsense. So I started off just saying no, okay, but you asked me for more.
I said, Dan, I love when you talk. Just keep talking.
I just find that all of that stuff about the excuses to be ridiculous, and so I find it also amusing when Fury just accepts it. Yeah, I did it. I had this in my gloves, and I did this, and I did that. So he's like mocking Wilder in that sense. So I don't think really anybody who spends 30 seconds literally really thinking about it finds it to be legit. Even the 40-pound costume, which Deontay had tried to deny that he even said. He said it to a number of reporters. I spoke to him one-on-one on the telephone. I probably somewhere still have that interview on a recording. He spoke to other reputable journalists that he said the same thing to, that the costume was the issue, made his legs weak. Well, again, is it the legs weak? Is it the manipulated gloves? Is it the referee? Is it Mark Breland? I mean, all these things came together in a perfect storm, and all these things happened, and all these things went down to make you lose the fight. Come on. I mean, what's the old saying? I was born at night, but not last night.
Yeah. You mentioned there that fighters do come up with excuses when they're undefeated and they suffer the the first losses. Do you think that Wilder, because he had that indestructible tag on him, like he was just knocking out everyone? I mean, the Ortiz fights, getting school, bang, knocked him out. I mean, Stavern, bang, knocked him out. He was just going through everybody. So when he got knocked out for the first time and stopped, I mean, he was down before, but he didn't get a beat down like that before. Do you think that was to make him feel better, rather than just accept it as a man? Do you think making up all these excuses were just there to make him feel better?
I can't answer that. I don't know what Deontay feels inside himself, but if he needed to say those things to somehow rationalize what happened in the fight, I mean, I don't. Again, I'll say this again. Deontay's not a bad guy. I don't not like Deontay Wilder. I don't think he's not an excellent heavyweight, a borderline Hall of Fame heavyweight. I mean, with 10 defenses over a 5-year reign, that's about as good as most heavyweight champions in the whole history of the sport, other than a select few that did more than him. So I'm not offended by it. I just find it to be kind of childish. I mean, again, my opinion, I like when boxers, when the best fighters fight each other, which Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder clearly are among the top couple of 2 or 3 or 4 best heavyweights in the world at this moment. When the top guys fight, somebody's going to generally lose. Now, the first fight, of course, they called it a draw, but usually someone's going to lose. I like when guys be like, you know what, you had a good night, wasn't that my best? Congratulations, he was the better man tonight. See you in the rematch. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that fans can appreciate that kind of humbleness, if you will. Some guys, they can't handle that, and in Deontay's case, he's just not been able to do that. Deontay has not given Tyson Fury a single shred of credit for his victory.
Talking about guys that have accepted defeat, I mean, Anthony Joshua, he done it against Ruiz, put his hands up, saying the better man won, I'll get him in the rematch, and he's done it again with Usyk. So I want to go back 2 weeks ago in London. I know you probably would have been there if you could travel and whatnot and stuff like that, but I mean, were you surprised at the Usyk beating Joshua, or did you think to yourself, it's a tough outing, a tough night for Joshua?
My pick in that fight was that Joshua would win, but never for a single moment did I think that it was going to be an easy victory, because I've watched Usyk in the amateurs, I've watched him throughout his entire professional career, I've been ringside for some of his fights. He's a very, very quality, elite pound-for-pound level talent. Now, my only question was, how is he going to do at the top of the heavyweight division? Because as great as he was, in my opinion, nearly a Hall of Famer as a cruiserweight. Now that he's defeated Joshua, I believe he is a Hall of Famer. I wrote that in a piece following the fight. But my questions were, how is he going to perform as a heavyweight? Because in the first 2 bouts that he had at heavyweight, when he moved up against Witherspoon and against Chisora, I thought he looked very average.
Playing possum?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
That's actually what I've heard, that he was playing possum to get the Joshua fight.
He didn't need to play possum because he was the mandatory, so that was not necessary in my mind. But I gave him some slack on the Witherspoon fight because A, he's moving up. B, he hadn't fought for over a year. C, he's coming off of an injury, and you're in a new weight class. So everybody in my mind is entitled to get that one out of the way and just see how they feel. Joshua made the point in an interview with us before the Usyk fight that when Holyfield went from cruiserweight to heavyweight, he had 6 fights as a heavyweight before he fought for the title against Buster Douglas. He had been the undisputed cruiserweight champion, albeit in the 3-belt era. And then Usyk comes up and now is fighting for the title against AJ in his 3rd heavyweight fight. But again, the first 2 heavyweight fights that he had, not very impressive, both Witherspoon and against Chisora. So I thought, he didn't look so good in that fight or the 2nd heavyweight fight, and Joshua, is still a top heavyweight that I felt like he would figure it out after a few rounds and be able to, get the win, maybe a late knockout, maybe a decision. However, I felt like Joshua fought the wrong game plan. I've said that to other outlets and written that. If you are the puncher and you have 20 pounds on the guy and 3 inches on the guy, and you're in front of 65,000 people who are all rooting for you, you don't let the other guy dictate the fight. You back that dude up, you bully him, you do whatever you can to keep him on the ropes. You fight, I'm not saying fight dirty, but fight in a way that you do what you have to do until the referee makes you stop doing something. And just be a dog. And that's not Anthony Joshua. He was not that, and he allowed Usyk to dictate that fight and seemed absolutely lost when it came to dealing with a southpaw. The straight left hand was open for Usyk the entire fight. He just couldn't handle it. And I feel like it was a winnable fight for Joshua for sure. He just fought, they didn't have the right plan in place. And if they're going to, in fact, do the rematch, I'm going to assume that he's going to go back and watch those videos. I think he'll probably stick with McCracken, I guess. If he's still going to be the trainer, they're going to have to come up with something different. It's still a winnable fight. It's not like Usyk didn't get touched. I mean, if you hadn't watched the 12-round fight and you just put a picture up. I mean, I know you don't judge boxing matches on a guy's facial damage. Okay, that's not appropriate. You deal 3 minutes at a time. But if you just put a picture up of Anthony Joshua after the fight and Usyk after the fight, you say, who won the fight? You'd say Joshua, because the other guy was much more of a mess than Joshua. He had some swelling, but Usyk had cuts and blood all over the place. So he won the fight, of course, but it was not easy. He got touched a lot. But Anthony was never able to land the real money right hand. And he's got some schooling to do, and he's got a lot to work on. Like I said, it's winnable, but Usyk is a dangerous guy before the first fight, in the fight, won the fight, and going to be a dangerous guy in the second fight.
You just talked about the game plan and coming up with a different game plan. Now, Ruiz, Joshua had that mindset, get you hurt, he's going to jump on you, back you up and stuff like that, uppercuts, left hooks and stuff like that. Now, we've seen him in the rematch that he changed his game plan, he turned more of a back foot boxer, and we've seen him, he can change his game plan, he can come in and alter his style a little bit. Now, but the rematch, you mentioned that you've got to back that dog up and be a dog in the fight and whatnot. But the rematch, it's Usyk. A lot of people are saying Usyk might be the fighter that has Joshua's number, but can you see a different result in the rematch?
Absolutely. And I thought that when he fought the Ruiz rematch, he did turn boxer. But again, he knew that the other guy, that Ruiz had knocked him out. So that was still in his mind, I'm sure. I mean, I think that may have changed him for his whole career, frankly, is those life and death moments where he got dropped and stopped by Andy Ruiz. But I think he has much more to be concerned about on a good, solid, hard punch from a bona fide heavyweight like Andy Ruiz than he would against Usyk, who hurt Joshua a couple of times. But again, if he cleans up a few things and I think fights closer to him, don't keep so much distance between you guys, between the two guys like he did. Use his physical advantages. He's a much bigger, more powerful guy, and it's not like he's inexperienced. Joshua's been in with the ring with the best fighters in boxing at the heavyweight division for the last several years. He's very experienced. It's definitely a winnable fight, and I'm not rooting for one way or the other. I hope it's just another competitive, good fight. But if you're a supporter of Joshua, you should definitely know that he is capable of winning the fight. You just have to do the right game plan. And I'll say this also. You and I and everybody who watched the fight, Anthony Joshua included, we all know that was not the best that Joshua could be. I know that he can fight better than he fought against Usyk, right? I'm not so sure Usyk can fight a better fight than he did against Joshua. Can Usyk raise his game even more? I thought he fought a brilliant fight. Can he be better? Not so sure about that. So if Joshua can be better and Usyk is about the best that he could be, I think that tightens things up a little bit,
We'll talk. Finally, I do want to let you go, but the undisputed heavyweight champion, we want that one guy in the division. Wilder's talked about it. We almost had it with Joshua and Fury, obviously with the legal process with Wilder. Then we thought maybe the winner of the winner can face each other rematch of this fight, but then the WC made Dillian Whyte mandatory, which. On you go.
They made it mandatory, but
wow.
But what they said in their ruling that came out just this week was that the winner of Fury and Wilder 3, if they can get a contract with Usyk for the undisputed title, I think they said 30 days, which is kind of tight, obviously, which probably means it won't happen. But if they can, they'll allow that fight to happen before the mandatory. But the reality is this, and everybody sort of knows this, Joshua and Usyk are going to fight another time. That's probably going to be in the spring, say like March, April, whatever. Fury Wilder, the winner of that fight, if they want to make the fight with the winner of Usyk and Joshua, probably would have another fight around the same time. So what we're looking at is, an interim fight for the winner of Saturday's fight, the rematch between Joshua and Usyk, and then particularly if it's Joshua that is able to rebound and avenge the loss, then they can maybe try to put that fight together. But it's a long way away. The best hope, if you want to see the undisputed, in my mind, would be that Tyson Fury wins definitively once again on Saturday. Joshua regains the title against Usyk, and then they're able to put that fight together. And remember, they had the deal done for August of this year, of this year, that ended up not happening because of the arbitration. No reason why they can't just dust that one off and put it back into effect. And again, the interim fight for the winner of Saturday, I guess, would be in the early part of next year against the winner of Dillian Whyte against Otto Wallin.
How do you see that fight? And Wallin's not a mug. He's shown against Tyson Fury that he's a live dog in this fight.
Definitely a live dog. Very tough fight for Dillian Whyte. I respect Dillian Whyte a lot for taking that match when he didn't have to do that. He definitely could have taken an easier opponent if he wanted to. Otto Wallin fought Tyson Fury in a really tough, good fight. Now, he lost the decision, that fair and square, And people might look at the scorecards and say, well, they were wide. It was an easy fight for Fury. Well, no, because Fury got his face ripped up really badly in 2 places from punches. And B, the scorecards may have been somewhat wide, but if you actually watch the fight, Fury was winning the rounds, but every round was like a dogfight. Every round was a close, tough fight. And Whyland just didn't, win on the cards. But the rounds were competitive. So Otto made more of a name for himself and got more recognition in a tough loss against Fury than he ever did in his other victories. And now Dillian Whyte is a good, excellent heavyweight. He's maybe slipped a little bit. I mean, we saw what happened with the knockout loss against Povetkin, but then again, we saw him come back and score a devastating performance against Povetkin in their rematch. So I just think that's a good, solid matchup. I mean, Otto is a good quality heavyweight. Dillian has been a good quality heavyweight for a long time. Made the best man win, but of course, if Dillian Whyte wins, it would certainly make the prospect of a fight with the winner of Saturday's Fury and Wilder a fight really interesting. Whether it's Fury in a big all-Brit fight, or even if it's Wilder, 2 guys that can also talk it up and 2 good punchers. I mean, the beautiful thing is, if you're a fan, any of those mix and match fights are fun.
Finally, then, back to Wilder Fury, Fury Wilder 3. You got a winner in your head? Can you disclose that? And what's your thoughts? My thoughts
are I'll probably change my mind 5 minutes after we're done doing this. But all along I felt like Fury again. You saw what happened in the first fight, saw what happened in the second fight. He's able to do it in different styles. And so my head says Fury again, however it goes. But I just have had this little feeling that Wilder, with the silence and seems really serious, feel like he's done his homework. And not to say that Fury hasn't taken it seriously, but he admits he's had other things going on. He traveled around. He did this. He had COVID. His birth of his daughter, a couple of months ago, whose daughter, when she was born, had, as Tyson spoke about at the news conference, he spent a couple of weeks in the hospital, because she was not well, and they had to get through that. So again, not saying he hasn't taken it seriously, but he's had some element of a distraction, and didn't get back to the United States for the rest of the camp until the 18th or 19th of September. So he wasn't here for that long to finish up. So again, I think Fury, but if Wilder wins, and just drills him like he almost did in the first fight, that Fury was able to miraculously survive in the knockdown in round 12, it wouldn't be a surprise to me. I don't care who wins the fight. I just want to see a good quality heavyweight scrap. I mean, that's why I'm here. Definitely.
Me too. Dan, as always, thank you so much for doing this for Fightful TV, and I might get a post-fight interview with you, see what your thoughts are, but again, thank you so much, Dan.
My pleasure. Always great to be on with you guys.
Definitely. Thank you.